Hello, thank you for stopping by. Oh, nope, I forgot my ho-hos. Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is BecxReadz, and welcome back to another Fave 5 episode of Bookmas. Today I am here to share with you my top 5 favorite young adult books of the year. My 5th favorite YA book of the year was Beguiled by Selah Pannon. This is about a young woman named Ella who is a weaver. That is how she takes care of herself after her father has died, but she owes a lot of debts to people, and when her loom breaks, she goes down to the river to try and make a deal with this entity known as the Benny, which is a creature of Scottish folklore, which I had never read about, so that was fascinating. She makes a deal with this Benny to restore her loom so that way she can repay her debts. The only thing that this creature wants in return is a drop of blood every time she weaves something, and she's like, okay, no big deal. And at first, nothing seems to be going wrong, you know, it's just taking a little bit of blood from her. But she starts to realize that the fabrics that she is selling to people, they start to have power over people. They're able to beguile people into doing whatever they want. And when this wealthy young man discovers this, he offers to be her patron and pay for her to weave more fabrics so that he and his wealthy friends can compel other people to do what they want. So she agrees to this. Girl needs money. But when she starts doing this, she realizes that her loom is no longer just taking drops of blood from her. It is stealing her essence. She is growing older and weaker and more frail with every fabric that she weaves. But she doesn't want to stop doing this because it is giving her the livelihood that she has never dreamed of having. Plus, she's starting to have connections with this wealthy group of people, and she doesn't want to let them down. I really enjoyed this story because of the uniqueness of it. It does have some fae in it, and they are not good fae at all. They are the trickster type of fae. And I did not see that coming in the story. I actually thought this was just a contemporary when I started it. So for it to be a darker fantasy was a real surprise to me. Plus, as I mentioned, I just liked the incorporation of a folklore creature that I had never read about before. My 4th favorite YA of the year was As Long as the Lemon Tree Grows. This is a historical YA that revolves around the Syrian Revolution. In this, we follow a young girl named Salama who is trying to keep what little family she has left alive. Her father and her brother are prisoners of war. They are presumed dead. She was going to college to become a pharmacist, but when this war broke out, she suddenly became a doctor. She was just thrust into it to take care of people because they had a lack of people who had knowledge of how to do that. So she is trying to take care of people in this war-torn country while still trying to get her family, her surviving family, out of Syria to be safe. And she sort of has to debate of, does she want to keep her family safe and maybe have the chance of seeing her brother and her father again, even though she thinks they're dead? Or does she want to stay in Syria and help these people who have nobody else to turn to? And meanwhile, because she is dealing with so much trauma and grief, she has this entity in her head who is basically the embodiment of anxiety and fear. And he is telling her, if you don't do this, I'm going to make you relive your worst nightmare, which is essentially seeing her family die. So she's dealing with that on top of everything else. So this story has a little bit of speculative fiction in it, which I kind of really enjoyed. This book at one moment made me literally cry. It was a shocker to me. Some people might have saw it coming, but I was like, oh, nope, didn't see that moment coming. It was such a heartbreaking book to read about because this happened to real people, you know? Even though it is fiction, it is based on real events. So I learned something, I cried, I loved the characters, and I think you should definitely check this one out. My 3rd favorite YA of the year was Magic Harvest. This is a new adult fantasy about a half fae, half human who is living in the fae world, and she's sort of looked down upon because she is a mixed breed. She has a younger sister who is a full fae, and her younger sister just doesn't understand what she's going through. So one day they are at this party or whatnot, and her younger sister gets kidnapped. So she takes off after her sister to try and save her, and she ends up falling through this portal into modern day Edinburgh. And there she runs into this group of investigators who are trying to prove that magic exists, because someone they know actually went missing and they think it has something to do with magic, but they haven't been able to prove it yet. So when this group of investigators finds her, they team up to try and track down what happened to their colleague and also try and find her sister who is missing. And it all links to this very evil wizard who is sucking the magic out of Fae and selling it to humans. I really thought this was such a unique Fae story, because the Fae in this are not like your sexy Fae. They are Tinkerbell type Fae. They're tiny little creatures, except for our main character, who is a half Fae, half human. She can grow to be human size. There's very little romance in this book. The main two characters, the investigator and this young woman, I can't remember their names, I'm sorry. But they have this romantic tension between them that never really gets physical in any sort of way. So if you're looking for a new adult fantasy that is low steam, this would definitely be the one for you. But I liked their character dynamics. I loved the incorporation of like dragons and these tiny little Tinkerbell-sized Fae. I loved the mystery aspect of it, and I just thought it was a really unique story. My second favorite YA of the year is The Corpse Queen. Now this is another historical YA. This is set in Philadelphia in, I believe, the late 1800s. This is about a young woman who grew up in an orphanage until one day she gets this message that this aunt she never knew existed wants to bring her to her house and give her a place to stay, with the caveat that she goes out and she collects specimens and brings them back to her. She has no idea what these specimens are until she learns that her aunt is sort of the patron and benefactor of this underground anatomy like course of study. She owns this big manor, and she allows like doctors and anatomists to hold like seminars in the back garden where they can look at like dead bodies and stuff like that, because it was frowned upon in this age. So she needs her niece to go and collect the bodies for this purpose. And along the way, she discovers some secrets about her family history as well. I really enjoyed this because, one, I have a morbid little soul and I find things to do with like death fascinating. I don't know why. But if you are somebody who is queasy about descriptions of dead bodies and such, I would definitely steer clear of this, because this does go into detail about the smell, the stiffness of the dead bodies, and all of that. This is another one that has no romance in it at all, so if you're looking for a YA with no romance, definitely check this one out, as long as you were able to handle the details about death. And my favorite YA of the year was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. This is a Korean-inspired retelling. This is about a young girl who goes out on a boat with her brother and his beloved one day. His beloved was raised pretty much to be the sacrifice to the sea dragon, but her brother has fallen in love with this young girl, and so she pushes this young girl out of the way and jumps into the sea as sort of, take me instead. She falls into this sort of underworld within the sea where she finds all the people who have died in the past, and she sees that she is connected to the emperor of this underwater kingdom, and she doesn't know what it means. But as she is there, she slowly starts to understand the connection he has on the people within this sea kingdom and how they are tied together. This was such a whimsical, lovely story. It was a retelling that I had never heard of before, and I just found the sort of like afterlife underworld very fascinating. Again, with the death aspect. It was just a very vividly told story. I loved the sweet romance that is in this story. Again, no spice in this book, but a very sweet romance that you could feel. I loved the familial dynamics and the found family that was in here as well. So this is definitely one that if you are into retellings, I think you should definitely check this out. It kind of matches my hair today too. That's cute. So those were my top 5 favorite young adult books of 2023. Let me know down in the comments what was your favorite young adult if you read them. But if you don't feel like commenting that and want to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a coffin emoji because of all the death? And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for another Fave 5 Bookmas video. Bye!